Hi, I'm Zendor, and yes, you have been expecting me. I'll be your guide, playing the devil's advocate as we peer into the depths of what keeps us afraid, angry, ignorant, and immobile. You draw your own conclusions. So many times, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And in today's world with so much misinformation keeping us apart, it really does matter how we interact with one another.
Namaste and in-law catch, and welcome to this episode of One World in a New World. I'm Zen Benefiel, your host, and hopefully I am the most. We shall see in this apocalyptic chat. Thanks for showing up. By all means, do like, subscribe, share, make a comment. It is the gold of this environment. So please help share those nuggets of yours, and we will respond, guaranteed. Also, if you would please visit planetarycitizens.net, our nonprofit. There is a free download of Planetary Citizens Awakening the Heart of Humanity, which you will absolutely love. It will soothe your soul and ignite your spirit to be who you are in a greater fashion. I guarantee it. So thanks for that too. Now, this week's guest is Charissa Sims. She is the convener of the Leadership Circle with Humanity's Team, which was an organization that Barbara Marx Hubbard helped found years ago that's doing some great work in the world. She is also the host of Zen Success, which is a podcast that explores a variety of folks, myself included. So please tune in soon. And she's a best-selling author of Change Your Energy, Change Your Life, a journey from anger to peace. What a wonderful journey. So we're going to have a great conversation here in just a moment, and she got a kick out of that one, I'm sure. So don't go away. We're going to have a wonderful apocalyptic chat. We'll be right back. Charissa, it's so great to have you here. It's kind of been a long time coming, right? And wonderful that you are here today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Zen. I just
Uh,
like
uh,
saying your name as well.
kind of a Zen moment, huh?
Yes, it
Um,
helps me
it,
to remember exactly to
well,
be Zen.
it's funny, it's short for Zendor, which was a name I was given in meditation decades ago, and I used it as a subheading for my original show, One World. And then one night, about 6 shows in, one of the guys stepped out from behind the camera and called me Zen. And that was it. They just cascaded. So Bruce is no, they call me Bruce, not anymore. My given name, right? So how did you first, we're talking about the challenges that we face and the reality of this inner experience that we all have that most of us are bereft of sharing because we think that others are going to think we're kind of crazy in doing so. Not so much, and especially now. And this is the core of our conversations because really all we want to do is love and be loved. And the only way that we can do that is to be totally open and fearless. Now, how did you initially begin to experience the interconnection to something greater than what we experience in the world? What was that like? And where were you at in life?
Well, I'm going to start off in childhood, as I'm sure a lot of people do experience their first connection. I was alone a lot as a child and running around in the woods. And I just always felt divinely protected. I grew up in Alaska and spent some time in Oregon. And everywhere I was, like even in Oregon, and then I also spent some time in Washington, there was just woods around
Hmm.
me everywhere. It felt like family to me. So, and I remember this moment. I would talk to God, I would write him letters or her, and and just feel so deeply connected. And when my mom became pregnant, I asked God, and God said, "You're going to be having a brother." And I told my mom, I said, God said, "We're having a little boy." And she smiled, and then it came true. It was my brother. So I always felt deeply connected to God.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can totally relate. I grew up orphan and adopted, and my parents lived half a mile away from two different woods. And one I was kind of forbidden to go into because it had an old grist mill and dangerous things in it, right? And the other one, it was free and did the same thing you did. Played with the animals, picked up salamanders and frogs and toads and talked to everybody. It just felt so connected. And I go back there by myself for hours.
Yeah, great. So we had the same playground. And
Yeah,
it was
well,
just like,
woods are very rare in Indiana, right? It's mostly flat
oh,
farmland.
yeah. But you know what I think is so great about that, Zen, both of us having that experience is the freedom to
Yeah.
explore, to just, because that's my parents didn't schedule me for like events or sports or anything. It was just like go play. And I
Mhm.
think that opened up a door for connection to the divine to me that I might not have known or deepened.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The encouragement to explore, educate yourself, be curious about life and your environment. My parents had the same with me. I was so fortunate. Could have been much different being an orphan, right? Um, so I'm like major blessed. Unfortunately, they're not here,
Yes.
and I'd love to share some of the things I'm doing with them now. They'd
Oh,
probably
but
be
that's
so
so
proud.
wonderful to hear about, your your family that adopted you and the beautiful journey you had.
It was, and it's not about me though, right?
Well, we're having a conversation, so we could have give each other love
Well, yeah,
and
there's no ego without we go, and we're here together, and so we learn how to dance in that respect, right?
Mhm.
So in that dance that you had as you were growing up and coming out of that the woods shed, if you would, or will, pun intended. What was that like as you were going into your teens in school, around your other peers? Were there those that you could connect with, or did you kind of just hold what you had sacred for a while?
Well, I did tell my friends about it. As I got older, I my family moved to Sitka, which is an island in Alaska, rainforest. And the tribe that is most prevalent there is the Tlingit tribe. And
Hmm.
my best friend was Tlingit, and I would participate in ceremonies. And I just felt this deep connection that this tribe had a deep connection with the elements, with nature, with the ocean. And my we fish for our food, crab, halibut, and so that's where
Delicious, right?
I lived, yeah, and again in the forest and everything. And a cemetery was behind our house. And an interesting thing, I mean, maybe a lot of kids would be afraid, or there's movies that create fear
Oh
about
yeah,
dead
yeah, yeah, yeah.
people in cemeteries, but not me.
They're a lot of fun.
I felt at home with spirits. I would talk to them. In fact, I wanted to run away from home one time and live by the cemetery. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I just think
Oh, no, it's kind of
ridiculous
funny and
now, but
yet
I
it's
just
so
felt
sweet, right? That you
loved.
had that open
Yeah.
willingness to connect. And there are no veils anyway. We know that as we get older and explore the realms. And yet,
Yeah.
as kids, we put those veils up, and of course, all of the media supports it. And at
Yeah.
the same time, there's that something's not right here. I'm going to go play.
Yeah. But I mean, I would say when I moved away, oh my gosh, I'm just making this connection now, Zen. Oh, I hope I
Sweet.
don't
I
get
love it.
emotional. When I moved away from Sitka, it was like a part of me was gone.
Hmm.
And I really lost that spiritual connection to God, to nature, because where we moved, there was no forest, there
Hmm.
was no trees, and I felt lost. I
Well,
will
and you
say,
went to that place just now. your whole body and your being just went in that grief place, right? And then you
Yeah.
came back. Now
Yeah.
that is the evidence of the work that you've done.
Hmm.
And thank you for acknowledging that it triggered an apocalyptic moment for you.
Yeah, it was the end of my world as I knew it.
Right.
Definitely. I would say I was definitely depressed
Mm.
for years until I got back to the water, to the
So,
ocean.
so that was kind of maybe where that anger started, right? Because you knew internally we know, right? We just deny we know
Yeah.
most of the time because we want to fit in and not cause disturbance instead of being a disruptor. Disruptors today are like, hey, wait a minute, here we come, right?
I
In
think you're
that,
right, but I have to be honest.
yeah,
You're the first person that has recognized that maybe that was the first time where my anger started to arise because I was angry at my family, at the situation. Even though I knew it had to happen, I did have a lot of anger and I really blocked my heart.
yeah. Well, there's that transformational coach coming out, right? I
Mm,
perceive the patterns and I listen and intuit, and it was just there,
hmm.
right? All I did was notice it and acknowledge that I noticed it.
Hmm.
And I'm sure that's a lot of what you do in your work is in that when we hit the pause button, right? When we feel that moment of tension, whatever it may be,
Hmm.
and we hit the pause button to peer in and find out. That's the beginning of release and the next step towards freedom, right? Kind of
Hmm.
an ego leap, if you will.
Hmm. Yeah.
In that, what was that Evo leap like for you when you found that moment at the door? I'm sure there were many, right? As we all have them, because there's layers. What was that first door you recognized? And in stepping through it, what did you find internally and externally as the mirror that, yeah, this is cool and what I ought to be doing, right?
Like fast forward to what I'm doing now. Is
Well,
that what you're
or no, early on
for?
when you
Or the
first started,
journey?
and I know it's a
Okay,
reflection, we
I'm
don't
gonna
often
tell
think
you.
about those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say in college, my mom invited me to a spiritual workshop called The Five Elements. And
Hmm.
this was in Northern California. And it felt like coming home again, coming home
Sure.
to the forest, to the
Awesome.
trees. And that was the first glimpse of feeling my heart open again to the divine, to nature, to all that is, and feel like I'm a part of this reality and I'm important and I matter and I'm not separate from
Right.
everything that's going on. And I feel
Right.
like that's why I love Humanities Team because that's what we talk about is oneness and
Sure.
connection.
And your Planetary Citizen Summit recently was just
Which is, I have to tell the audience here, this is why Zen reached out because Humanities Team had a Planetary Citizen Summit and Zen has a nonprofit, obviously, Planetary Citizens. So we felt like we had to connect.
yeah, and we did.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. Now, the five, you mentioned the five elements. It triggered something in me. Maybe check in with you and see what you think about this. As we proceed in life in the maturation process, there's basically five relationships that we have that are imperative:
Mm.
body, mind, spirit, planet, and cosmos.
Okay. I've never heard that before.
Well, you wouldn't. I'm the
That's
only one I've ever heard
amazing.
say it so far. But in my
Okay.
recognition, I'm almost 70. There are lots of
Okay.
things I've been able to sit and observe and, ponder and ruminate on and just, where are the patterns? What is the core things? My recent book, Coherence, from Hydrogen to Humanity, is about looking for the core patterns that we can tie into to make it all work better in natural order, right?
Yes. And congratulations, by the way, on your
Oh,
new book
thank you.
release.
Thank
Yes.
you. My 51st. It took me 50 to get it right, right?
Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment. It's impressive.
It's that or it's just insanity being, manifest, right? I had the time and the fingers to do so.
Creativity in action.
Love it, right? When you're inspired to do things, time disappears and you just do.
Mm, yeah. So you mean you're just having this realization of the analogy between the five
No,
elements and the five?
well,
Okay.
just now that triggered that
Oh,
because
it triggered that. Okay.
years ago I taught high school, special ed, regular ed, charter schools, residential treatment centers. And at the end of that, from my second master's degree in organizational management, I wrote a business plan for a model school, holistic by design, which has those five elements in it. Now,
Oh, cool.
this was back in 2002. I took
Okay.
it to the state education director for Child Protection Services here in Arizona. He said, Zen, I love it. You're light years ahead of us. I don't know if we'll ever get there. So on the one hand, it was like, hoo-hoo, I found something. On the other, it was like, oh shit, right? Because it's just not time yet.
Yeah.
And I think, do you find in your work and with Humanity's team that a lot of it you're ahead of everybody else and it's a bit frustrating because you're in that position and hoping people will catch up because it's so wonderful when they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a valid question. I just don't come from that philosophy because I believe in uniqueness and
Hmm.
everybody has their own journey and it's okay. I feel like there's a range of this ascension and how awake people are.
Absolutely.
And it's my job, I feel like it's my job to keep holding that intention for love and peace. And it's not like an airy fairy thing. It's like, okay, when I'm having an inner conflict, how can I breathe through that and create peace in my own body and my vibration? Because I know that has a ripple effect.
Absolutely does. And I play as devil's advocate from time to time. It doesn't necessarily mean that's my position. However, I agree with
You're wrong. No, I'm just teasing you.
you.
I thought you might like that.
Oh yeah, you want to be right or happy, right?
We're having a conversation and I'm
Yeah,
sharing my experience.
sure, sure.
Hmm.
And I'm asking from various perspectives and not always my own. Um, in that journey that you had going into the five elements, and the indigenous are so wise. They are so connected. Um, their three brain system. I'm not sure where it originated from or what tribe, or it may not. It may just been ubiquitous of understanding that our gut, our heart, our head are all connected in a system. And we sense with our gut, which is tuned into the vibrations. We distill in our heart, determining whether it's desirable or undesirable. And then we feed it to the quantum computer on our head that's tied into everything else for interpretation and better choices in how we move forward. I find that to just be ecstatically pure, right? When you can be in that place. And I think this is kind of what you were just talking about, of the sensing, the being, the moving in that. What was it like as you connected with the five elements and understood more of that ubiquitous or holistic connection that you have with creation?
That is such a deep question,
Hmm,
Zen. And I know you have many deep questions, right? It's just one of many. But I'm just going to share a few of my experiences and we'll see how it flows.
sure.
So one of the five elements, fire, and it was walking on fire. That was my first time. So in my experience, I felt like I needed to believe that I can walk on this without getting burned. It's kind of like getting out of my head and into faith and belief and trusting the process. And the interesting thing is about 5 people burned their feet. So I knew it was real,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't.
Well, the
And you
coals are
know,
real, right?
oh yeah, the fire, the heat, that everything is real. But if you have, I'm not saying if you got burned from firewalking, it's not that you're wrong or anything. It's just in my experience, you can control your body
Right.
and say, to not get burned. And I do
Sure.
that with healing now. I love talking to my body. And so that was like the first time that I had a conversation and about this before I did the
Sure.
firewalk and just had this, okay, I need to have confidence, faith, and belief. I mean, 1,000%, because if
In
I
your
have
body, not in
less
your
than this,
head,
yeah, if I have
right?
less than that, it's danger. I could die. I could get burned. So, yeah, I mean, there are many more experiences, but I guess that's what I wanted to share.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That totally illustrates how you can manage the reality around you and stay safe
Hmm. Yeah, I
when
know
you're
there's
out
a
of your
lot of
head and
workshops
in your body.
about that, like Tony Robbins has it and other
Right.
people,
Well, it's
but that was
everywhere,
my
right?
first
This
time.
is
It's
not
everywhere.
this is not secret knowledge. Although
Yeah. Yeah. I
although
think
it
it's
was for a long
ancient.
time because it
Right.
was, it empowered people and others didn't necessarily like that. May not
Yeah. I
still
mean, I think
today,
it's
but there's less
ancient
effect.
knowledge, like from India, it feels like.
Yeah. Well, India and Russia.
Oh, Russia too?
Oh,
Okay.
actually, Russia was far more important. We give credence to India because they shared things, and Sanskrit actually is more Cyrillic than anything, right? So there's this combination, and like when the Roriks brought out Agni Yoga, right? They were Russian. That filtered into India.
I didn't
And
know that.
so all of these, I know, apocalyptic, right?
Now
I
people
didn't
know.
either. My wife happens to be was born in and raised in Leningrad. She left before the dissolution of Russia, of the USSR. However, she's intensely interested in its history and spirituality and connection and what that's all about. So we have these wonderful conversations. I've learned so much about their history from her, and also trust but verify, right? And looking up information is like, yeah, this is all congruent. And we Americans, especially, have been marginalized
Hmm.
in that respect because they're
Hmm.
supposedly our arch enemy. I mean, what a better twin flame wife to have than somebody that's supposed to be our arch enemy when my life's themed with harmony among people and planet, right? So,
I love it. It's so fascinating that the universe brought you together so that you could heal this dynamic on a global level, I feel, and that has been happening.
oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and people from Russia or Ukraine or that area, it's interesting. I feel this that they're healers. I mean, we're all healers, of course, but there's this lineage of healing because I've worked with some Russian clients in my spiritual practice, and I'm like, your great grandmother, your grandmother, you're all healers. It's
Hmm.
time to claim your power, get your power back from your lineage. So I
Right.
thought that was interesting.
In spite of the country's um, ability to kind of quash religion, right? This had nothing to do with religion. This is a way of life.
Yeah, way of
This is who we
being.
are. It's
Hmm.
funny. Um, I met Dr. Edgar Mitchell years ago and befriended him, and we were fairly close for a while. But a man like that, right? He's got millions of contacts. He actually went to Russia for training from one of their scientists slash healers. I forget the guy's name, but that information isn't readily available. It just I found it one day. It's like wow, it's
Ooh,
just
send me that.
yeah, yeah.
Or post it in the chat here for
Um,
the.
Well, Luba is my wife. She's the one that brought it out to me because this guy also worked with others that she was familiar with. And she's been trying to get me into Russia forever. I mean, we've been together 9 years, and I think it started about year 2, because of the work that I do and the congruence of my words with what she's heard from Russian spiritualists and scientists and so on and so forth, um, which is really encouraging. And just recently, I was asked to translate Coherence and Planetary Citizens into Russian to be featured on a site there. So I'm just ecstatic about that. Don't know what's going to happen. Doesn't matter. The fact that this moment just kind of went poof, right? What
That's
kind of,
amazing. I love
thank
that.
you. Thank you. And um, in that, I'm sure you've had something similar, maybe many things similar. What brought to what came to your mind as I was talking about that? Because we have a tendency to relate to others through our own story, right? I think we all do that. We don't necessarily admit it, but we're always trying to find connection. Uh, What?
Okay, I'm going to be selfish here. I
Yeah,
thought I want to have my book translated into Russian.
you know
That's
what?
what
It's pretty
that's what
easy.
came to me. I'm
Advantages
sure
of
it is
AI.
these
Never
days
used to be
because
able
of
to do
AI.
it. AI now you can plug it in, you can plug your work in, and it will translate. You probably want to do it chapter by chapter because the big files kind of they drift, is what they call
Yes,
that.
I've learned that about AI because we
Yeah,
did a summit, Soulful Productivity at Humanities team, and I learned about that. Yeah,
sure. Yeah, it all
that's a good
depends
tip.
on your prompts and your queries and how exacting you are of the information that you want.
Ah, yeah. Okay, thank you. So that's what came to me when
Cool.
you were sharing.
Well, now you've got the opportunity to do so.
Oh yeah,
Um,
exactly. You're like, okay, this is how you do it. Da 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 da. Now there's no excuses. So thank you, God, for bringing
yeah.
us together.
And, my life, I've learned a lot of things just so I could be able to do them, right?
Mhm.
Part of it was so nobody else could fool me, right? When it came to production work and especially desktop publishing and those kinds of things.
You
Um,
wanted to know the intricacies of
oh,
everything,
have
how it
to,
worked.
right? That's just me. I've got this science and math mind with a spiritual bent, right? Because I am connected to so many realms and I've explored those well. And perhaps that kind of mindset and the intelligence that I was born with, my parents never told me about, gave me the opportunity to investigate further without the fear, right? The curiosity overcomes the fear in almost every case that we can imagine. Given that, where did you meet those two things? The fear with not necessarily great, but something that you recall where you had some fear towards something, you were still curious enough that you walked through the fear.
Okay, I have one for this, and maybe people have a similar story. Ah, gosh, I want to share too, but I'll see how it goes. So,
Okay.
so the
We'll see
first
what kind of
time,
time we get. Notice I don't
yeah,
have a watch, so we're rather timeless
okay,
here.
I'm looking. So the first time where I felt fear, so I used to be an ergonomic consultant, and I still do that a little bit for corporations.
Hmm.
And I was hired by this company that worked with many different organizations. I don't know, you probably remember AOL Time Warner and
Oh,
uh,
yes.
yeah, TransUnion, a lot of Transamerica, a lot of insurance companies. And so I was thrust into the corporate world without that much experience. I had about 6 months experience running ergonomics programs.
That's sometimes a good thing because you've got no bias.
Oh, that's true. I was a clean slate, and that's
Yeah.
what she liked because she could train me in her way and
Right.
software and everything. So she had won all these contracts to do presentations, to do trainings, and to speak to all the executives and the corporate world. And
Hmm.
so I was scared out of my mind to do public speaking, which I'm sure a lot of people are. I don't want to
Top
put
one
that
on
up.
the right, the list of fears. First is public speaking.
Oh, it is?
Second is death.
The second is
Third
dying.
is divorce.
Oh, okay. Well, I've had divorce too, so I've been through that fear, which I was afraid of as well.
Sure.
So I signed up for Toastmasters and I started progressively getting over my fear. And, I also shifted my perception of it. So when I was speaking, I took a deep breath and I said, how can I serve? And I thought about the hearts of everyone listening and watching, and I connected with them before I talked. And then I made it about them instead of about me. And then my fear melted away after I knew I had the skills because of
And,
Toastmasters.
and
So I just wanted to
awesome
share that.
organization, isn't it? I mean, the just
Oh,
the
it was
opportunity
amazing.
to step up and present and put yourself through that
Yes.
alone gives the opportunity to step back and observe as you're doing that because it's you analyzing you and hoping to be better. And plus, you get great feedback from the group.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. So I learned about all like, my posture and eye contact and pausing and, asking questions and
It's all
all
about
of
the
this.
pregnant pause, right?
Yeah, and it became powerful. And I have to say, I became an excellent speaker, speaking at national conferences all across the world. So it's amazing, and I still really enjoy it.
And it's evident.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So that was one of my fears. And then I also had a fear of singing a solo, and I got over that fear last year.
Oh,
I sang a solo at my church.
oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was another fear. I think it's kind of similar. That's why I wanted to share them both to
Yeah,
public
yeah, yeah,
speaking,
yeah.
because it's like being on stage. It's like
Sure.
stepping into your power, living in your authentic truth.
Yep, yep. I was drummer for years, still am, and never sang, right? It was with the Eric Clapton tribute band.
Oh my gosh,
And,
amazing.
and so I decided to sing My Father's Eyes. And wow, because it meant a lot to me. I mean, my father and I were really, really, my adopted father even, were just amazingly close. And so when I would sing this, I would just open up and this voice came out of me that nobody knew I had.
That's so sweet.
It was just
Because it
wonderful.
was like meaningful
Oh
for you
yeah.
and you needed to express through your voice.
Oh, you feel everything, right? And do you find, rather than speak, I'm going to question. Do you find that when you're engaged and when you're observing and helping others and serving them, that there's this sense of being that comes forth beyond your own knowing, and it's almost like you don't know who you are in that moment because it's so different
Yes.
initially. As you practice, it gets different, but more comfortable. But there's a side of that. Some people call it channeling, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, it's just Irvin Laszlo, perfect example, right? He talks about the higher self and allowing it to do all the work, right? That's the cosmic consciousness that each of us have a direct connect to. Even Jesus said that, right? He alluded to the Father, but same thing, right? And our frequencies have access to every perfect piece of information for our individual self. All we got to do is ask the question.
Yes.
Do you
I
find
love
that to be true?
absolutely. I speak light language, which could be considered channeling. It's very natural and flow, and I can also translate other people's light language.
Mm.
And the origin feels from starseed. Um,
Right.
yeah, so
Oh,
my,
when I was given the name Zendor, right, it came through one of these metaphysical moments,
uh-huh.
right? Those mini moments. And when I asked, okay, what's this really? Because when it came through, it was very English, right?
Hmm.
And the name was like multisyllabic and very few consonants. It's unpronounceable.
Okay.
So these things I've often wondered, what do you think about this multidimensionality that we have, right? Do we have different bodies on various planes of consciousness that as we incarnate and condense into form, there's particular bandwidths that we're functional on that we may not be connected, we are connected with, but we may not realize it yet because we're too focused in the physical?
Yes, possibly. And I did want to go back to what you were saying
Oh, yeah.
before I
You know, we
answer
never
that
finished with the
question.
five elements. What are we doing?
No, not five elements, but what you're saying about Urban Laszlo, how he
Right.
talks about the higher self, because he is a provider on Stream Plus for Humanities Team.
Mhm.
So you'll find that if anyone who wants to join Humanities Team. And also, Steve Farrell, the co-founder of Humanities Team, has an incredible course, Higher Self, Higher Purpose. So I just wanted to mention that.
Super.
And then
Super.
going into these multi dimensions. Yes, I do feel like there are parts of us, and you could see it in different ways. I also see it as timelines, as infinite possibilities, as multiple, like our frequency and energy can be in multiple places at once. And
Mhm.
by the way, I thought this was only for superheroes. how how you replicate, they
Yeah.
show it
Right.
in
Right. No.
movies, you replicate yourself.
Sure.
So before I knew this, Zen, my energy when I would have a healing client would stay with the person and heal them. And I had no idea. So
Mhm.
now I have my clients, they call their energy back to them. I call my energy back to me so that my frequency doesn't stay, because that is actually, you think, oh, it's good. And I don't think so, because they didn't actually give my permission to
Right.
continue the
Well, it's
healing.
like who was
Right.
it? Castaneda in his works, right? And Don Juan was teaching him how to heal his egg or seal his egg, right? Which is
Okay.
basically our aura.
Oh,
And
okay.
so you're talking about the emotional cords, energy cords, however you
Mm-hmm.
that we leak to others or lend,
Mm-hmm.
depending. And in order for us to be fully whole, though, that has to be removed because we've got to bring all of it back to self. Not that
Yes.
we're being selfish, that's the ultimate form of self-love.
Yes. Because even what I'm realizing, even just a desire for someone to heal, even when I'm having a desire, my energy can get entangled, like you said. And
Mhm.
so that's why it's important. You can have that intention of love and healing for another person and still separate your energy. But I also wanted to say on another level, and as far as discussing multidimensionality, is
Mhm.
that I believe that our soul is intergalactic, and that we can connect with that higher dimension. I'm getting 15, 13, 15. So anyways, there are these dimensions of ourselves that we can connect with, and also our gifts,
Yep.
and really tune into those
The gifts
dimensions
to
is
ourselves.
accessing our gifts. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's some evidence for that, right? There was a guy named William Swigart in the 1950s came up with two different processes, the multi-level awareness and multi-plane awareness. Multi-level was about Akashic records, guides, chakras, working in that area. The multi-plane was creating a light body, putting your consciousness into it and transversing 9 planes of consciousness and integrating your body on each one of them. Now, there's an example of that I have online that it's multiplane or Evo Leap in consciousness or quantum field experience. You can probably Google one of those. I'll put it in links below.
Great.
However, in 2010, Nepi and Close wrote a physics paper, a quantum physics theory of everything paper called the Triadic Dimensional Distinction Vortical Paradigm. And in it, they posit that humans, basically, consciousness, space, and time are tethered across 9 dimensions.
Mm.
Then you have the 9 solfeggio tones, right? So all of these systems kind of, and this is one of the questions I asked Irvin about, and he didn't drill down that far, but he just said, we're all energy and we're connected. So in that respect, though, there's an opportunity, a gift. I looked for something online for it for years. I went through it in 1989, was kind of flippant about it, and then woke up to a party in my room after I came back without dropping the bodies off, which is what the process is supposed to do, right? I brought them all back instead. So there's that kind of weirdness that's
You brought the
navigable.
spirits back from what kind of experience? What?
Well, this was the objective is to integrate your body on each one of those planes.
Oh,
So it's
okay. And they
all
were all
you,
there. Okay.
right? And like you're saying, going out into the intergalactic, that's how that takes place because to them, and Wilbert Smith is the one that I got this from. He ran U, Canada's UFO program in the 1950s, similar time frame,
Wow.
right?
That's really cool.
And they said to him, because he had interactions, that humans don't understand nothingness.
That's true. I don't.
What happens when you go inside and you disappear? You go into the nothingness. The recursive function that we hear from the computer world is our going into our closet to pray. It's the same thing. A recursive system queries itself for problem solving. Well, what are we? We're nuggets of the big self, right?
I mean,
So
what you're saying is probably the right way to pray when you're like going into the unknown.
I don't know if there's a
Your
right or wrong. Just the fact that you're
detachment,
doing it is
right? That's true. Detachment from the outcome, the nothingness, getting into the 0 point field, quantum field, that space.
yeah. There's also a very high pitched, effervescent, iridescent sensation there.
Okay.
Well, it's like
I
anybody who's had a
believe
near
it,
death.
but I don't
Yeah.
know. It's like
Well,
that's
if you
your
look into the near
experience.
death experiences and those who do report the level of um, dissection, if you will, of their experience, right? Because you got many perspectives from which to report back what that experience was like. And when I first had it, uh, it was more, I was asked if I was willing to die for what I believed in. I said yes, believing in cosmic consciousness. And so when went into the light shortly thereafter, there was this sense of being unified and yet still being individuated. And I found the same sensation on the opposite end, in the void, right? In that nothingness. So there's congruence through the system, right? Maybe like Napping Close say, it's all tethered. Now that's just for the human experience, that tethering. That doesn't mean that there's not other dimensions that we're tied into and have access to once we get familiar with the nine that we do have access to. And I think that's part of this awakening process that we're going through at the end of Kali Yuga and the shift in the Mayan calendar and the shift from the Piscean to the Aquarian age, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of attention on this particular time that we are in.
The
Now,
dawning of the age of
yeah,
Aquarius.
yeah, Billy and Marilyn, right?
Huh?
Um,
Yeah, it feels like a very special time to be alive. If you connect to that specialness, that awakening energy, because there can be chaos around that's
will
happening
be,
now,
will be.
will be
It will,
more. This
yeah,
is just the beginning. But how can you come into the beautifulness of it? Because that is like, I mean, the purpose of your podcast. We're coming into a new world, and that has to happen. The
and having the
old
guts to
world
talk about it,
has to collapse, and the
right?
chaos is part of that.
Well, this is where planetary citizens comes in. We're moving from a collapse culture, which we've built. It's okay. We've no judgment. This is the one thing, like spiral dynamics, right? It puts the civilizations in layers of operability, But there's no judgment there. It's just, okay, this is what is, this is where things are at. Now what? Right? Well, the same thing with when you're looking at the collapse culture, what's next? How do we begin this co-creation process and mitigating the silos that are in all the different sectors of people who are doing similar things but don't know about each other, right? When you begin to connect those dots, those ripples, wow, I just can't wait to see what that's going to be like.
That's amazing. And for those of you listening, I just want to say one of the shifts that can help is to realize your worthiness, to realize your deservedness, that you matter no matter what. You don't have to write
There
books.
is no matter. You just matter.
You matter. You're an important part of this intergalactic web that we live in. And you stepping into your power and being at peace with who you are is what we need in this new world.
Right. And it's initially probably not going to be too comfortable because it's different. You're stepping into an unknown, and we're programmed to fear the unknown. Take the fearless approach. Know that in that you're totally protected. And that's the way spirit works, right?
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just when you are in that space of unconditional love, there is nothing that can touch you
Good
except you.
point. Yeah.
Now, how did you, as you move forward, went into the corporate world and got your lessons learned there, and how did you take that into the further work? And what was the essence of what you learned in that navigation of those systems and helping them to be more coherent?
Well, I just really learned how to be a chameleon, how to change my way of being in talking to executives versus office manager, all different types of industries, bus drivers, food manufacturing, and just figuring out tuning into their unique problems and situations
Hmm.
and listening, really becoming a deep listener and figuring out, okay, how can I help them on a global scale? How can I help them from a macro level?
Hmm.
And then starting a step-by-step micro and giving a plan to move forward. So I feel like that is the gift that working in the corporate world gave to me.
Oh, cool. Well, like anywhere, right? It's where you focus your attention, intention, and interactions, and how you focus them. Like you were
Yeah.
saying, when you ask questions and you listen deeply, you're going to get not just from their words, but from their entire energy, how to serve them better. Because you're not thinking about it, you're listening.
And it was authentic
Yeah.
because I literally had no idea what to
Oh, yeah. It's
do.
easy to play stupid, isn't it?
Because
Right?
I was like coming in blind. And so I have to admit I had an advantage. But you've been a consultant as well. So
Well,
you come from
but I
that
learned the same
experience.
thing,
Yeah.
yeah, in the aerospace industry at 26, I was in charge of $7 million in shipments a month, 800 part numbers. I had full
Yeah.
reign of the plant, talked to whoever I needed to, but the thing that made it work was playing dumb.
Yeah.
I, I
But
don't
because you're
know.
open,
Can
you're
you
blank
help
slate.
me?
Yeah.
And in doing that, that gave me the ability to understand what they were looking for in a reciprocal relationship,
Hmm.
right? Because you
And
can't
then you could
fake.
be effective
Oh yeah,
in the
I
role
would
that
learn
you're
things about people, and I would, do the little extras for them as I was off in the plant, and it just worked wonders. I soared to the top of the production charts, didn't know it until a couple of supervisors came to me almost a year later and said, "What are you doing?" And because I don't pay attention to numbers, I just love my job and the people with it, right? And I was at goal and above consistently. And so they came to me and said, "Well, how are you doing that? What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I treat people how I want to be treated." It's
Hmm.
that
That's
simple.
beautiful. But
And
did you get into the top secret black ops aerospace?
I've been on the outskirts, yes.
I haven't. I was always like, ooh, I want to go in the like top secret. They had those sections like anyway, I was in
Yeah.
aerospace
No,
as
I
well.
wasn't in our R&D department. I was in production control. So
Oh, okay.
um,
It was different.
we got what happened afterwards, right?
Okay,
After it went through
got
the
it.
R&D, it was ready to go to production, then I got it.
Well, I
But
always thought it was exciting being on the same site as the top
oh,
secret, but
yeah,
anyway.
you know that being around those kinds of environments, the I don't know if I want to term it as pressure, not in it, not necessarily pressure to perform, but just the general gotta perform energy there, right? And there's all kinds of ways to do that. And in the command and control structure that the military has, that filtered in because we were a defense contractor as well, that filtered into the relationships and people beat each other up to get what they wanted emotionally or verbally,
Mm.
depending.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Right? You get a little, and this is goes back to our ability to accept responsibility without letting it go to our heads and wanting to control everything as a result because we're afraid something's not going to happen. Right?
Hmm.
Back to
Yeah.
that fear place, right? But those being able to play dumb and say, hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me out? We need to have this happen over here and with this kind of result. I'm not sure how to get there. What's your best idea?
Hmm.
And people love to share their ideas and their
Yeah.
methods and their solutions. You just got to give them the chance.
It's so true. And I love like best practice sharing, coming together, having interdisciplinary teams from
Hmm.
various groups across the organization because they have insights for each other and we can
Sure.
all learn from each other. And I felt like that was very successful in my career as well as
What
developing
did
these
you find
teams.
was your, I want to say go-to place, the frame, the energy that you brought into those situations? I know you said, how can I serve? That's the first question that we ask. But as you're in that, what did you find were the points of navigation or the next layer of questions that would come up?
Oh, well,
Or were they general or more specific to the specific scenario?
well, I would say, okay, so I'd create these interdisciplinary teams.
Hmm.
How can I get these leaders from the different departments to respect and listen to each other and take their advice? Because sometimes there was this defensiveness or like I don't want anyone messing with my department. I run things the way I run things and no one can tell me what to do. So there was a lot of
Yeah, the
ego.
old type A, right?
Yeah, I mean, because they get to the top for that reason, right?
Sure.
They're
Right.
driven and they know what they want. They have the clarity. So it's like breaking down those egos and getting people to open up, and then to for them to trust me and
Biggie.
as a facilitator, right?
The bottom line is they've got to trust something. If
Yeah.
it's not you, the process.
Yeah,
And
the
just
purpose.
know the person facilitating the process is going to do it in their unique way. It's the process that works, however it's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did you find that nugget of recognizing that it's all process?
Well, I mean, I had a lot of training in it, to be honest.
Hmm.
Six Sigma, lean manufacturing. I had a lot of training in aerospace
Sure.
that really helped me think about that, about the process and why that's so important.
Hmm. Were you involved with ISO 9000 certification at all?
No,
No.
I wasn't at that level. That's hardcore, but
It is, right?
I know that it's a lot. That's all I know. Okay, I'll leave that up to the other people.
Yeah,
But
it's
no.
another level of quality, right? It's like Six Sigma, only you have to define what you're doing to achieve it in order to get the certification, which is
Okay.
necessary for government contract work.
Okay. Yes. I'm sure there's people doing it within our
Oh,
organization.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They're always there. They're hidden, right? Because nobody wants to deal with it, and it's something that's mostly just desk work, right? Of figuring it all out and putting it all together
I
and
see.
make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Oh, well, it sounds like you know what you're talking about when it comes to that. So,
I don't know anything.
hey,
I know nothing.
falling into the nothingness,
Right.
coming back to what the aliens, their wisdom.
So what do you think, speaking about them, what do you think about, the evolution of our understanding of their presence here and the possibilities of the variety of ways that they are that we haven't necessarily been open enough to talk about yet?
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to share is probably not out there for you, but it might be out there for our audience. Okay. So
Thank you for that. Right.
yeah, I I believe that aliens have been here since humans have been here. This is nothing new. With the giants, with the Egyptian pyramids, I feel like there was a connection with aliens, and I also feel like there's different levels of aliens or interdimensional beings that could be a bug or like an animal or and different hierarchical levels. Like there can be people that are actually aliens or hybrids or part alien, part human, and they actually have even different blood. So it's just like it's so integrated into our civilization, and just people don't even realize that all these
Sure.
movies about aliens are real and even more. So that's my opinion.
I a little bit to go with that. I mentioned Dr. Edgar Mitchell earlier. The story he told me, he confided in me. He says, "I want to tell you something, but you got to promise not to tell anybody till after I'm."
Wait, was this a guy in charge of UFO in Canada? No,
No,
somebody
no,
else.
this wasn't Wilbur Smith. It was Dr. Edgar Mitchell. He was the
Okay.
sixth man on the moon, right? Which is one of the reasons why I have this photo is to have that perspective, right? Off
Okay.
planet kind of thing. Well, and Dr. Mitchell also started the Institute of Noetic Sciences um, after he got back. Well, his revelation went beyond that. What he told me that I couldn't share till after his death, this was in 1997. He
Okay.
says,
Oh, exciting. I can't
yeah,
wait.
yeah, he says, and he died in 2016, so we're safe. He said once they detached from the command module, he was the pilot of the lunar excursion module, which is called the LEM. He says all the way down to the surface, there was a metallic silver cylinder spiraling around them. He couldn't tell the perspective because they just had a little triangular window. And if you look at the LEM, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
And so he couldn't tell the size, couldn't tell whether it was piloted on board or from the surface. What he could tell, it was nothing from Earth.
Ah, this was an alien spaceship.
A probe or something like that, right?
Trans. Yeah.
And yeah, where do you think Gene got his ideas from? So then, about a decade later, I heard through the UFO Congress grapevine that Buzz and Neil saw the same thing standing upright on a platform just beyond the dark side of the moon. Well,
Okay.
now there's another layer of that. So they've been there, they're there, where'd they come from, how'd they get there, all that kind of question. Well, there's a story that I heard from Virgil Postlewaite originally, or Virgil Armstrong. Virgil Postlewaite Armstrong. He was going by Posty at the time. Maybe some are in the audience are familiar with him. He was one of the first UFO whistleblowers and things back in the 80s. Um, anyway, he was telling about a native indigenous legend about the planet Maldek. And Maldek was basically we could see it as a type 2 civilization in a Kardashev scale. So it was using the solar system's energy and had developed the ability to travel between planets. They came here, They were running out of energy, right? So they came here, built the pyramids in order to channel electromagnetic energy back to their planet.
Oh, look, I was meant to talk with you so that I could make that final
Well,
connection.
I don't know if this is true or not, but this is the story, right?
Okay, it's a
So
story.
the
Sorry.
story goes on to say that
But it feels true to me.
there was a type 3 civilization that was observing all of this and built an escape pod because they knew that their planet was going to explode when they fired up the machinery to do this energy exchange, which it did. It's now our asteroid belt.
Cool.
So what
It's just a
happened?
story, but it makes sense to
Right.
me.
Well, sometimes, Occam's razor, right? So then they built the moon, this third type 3 civilization, right? They crafted the moon, made it hollow, put the people that were worthy of moving forward in it, brought them here. Now, the Native American story is that the moon wandered through the solar system until Mother Earth said, please, we'll take you, right? Because they were looking for a place to land. Well, Earth
Oh,
was becoming inhabitable at the time. And
uh-huh.
so 4.5 million years ago, roughly, right? And so there they are. And they've been there ever since. And we fired projectiles into the moon. We know it's hollow. You have high-powered telescopes now that can see craft flying across the surface of the moon in some situations. There's many videos out there. So there's this whole new dynamic of our interconnectedness that we don't even know we have yet because that information's been hidden for years.
Yeah.
And now it can no longer be hidden because everybody can see.
Yeah. And I have heard that about the moon being hollow and also Mars. I have heard that hypothesis.
I don't know about Mars, but I mean, every other planet has an orbit, has a rotation, right?
Mhm.
Moon doesn't. It does, but not, it's locked into Earth. Now, another interesting thing, Jeff Mishlove sent me the unpublished memoirs of Donald Keyes, who was the original founder of Planetary Citizens in the 1970s, along with Hugh Thant, who was the Secretary General of the UN at the time. In Donald's memoirs, he mentions Maldek. Blew me away. He was talking about, a group of them were doing out-of-body healing, and so they astral traveled to the asteroid belt and was doing some healing there. Didn't explain exactly what it was, but you know how that kind of stuff works. It's weird and it's wonderful, and you can't explain it. You just do it, right? So having that
That's
mentioned is like
weird.
brought the whole thing back. It's like, okay, well, maybe this is true.
Hmm. Yeah, because
The
another
history
person
of
was
us.
talking about it,
Yeah,
validating it. Hmm.
right. Corroboration, synchronicity, all of
Yeah.
those kinds of things, the breadcrumbs that we often miss because we deny our first response and second guess everything.
Yeah. And I even saw a spaceship as a child. I believe that most of the time they're invisible and that there's those little glimpses. It's because it's a frequency
Right,
and some
exactly.
people can see it, and
It's tough for
others
them to condense into
can't.
form.
Yeah. But a lot of times the clouds, you think it's a cloud, but it's actually an alien ship. But I did see a pod once and it scared the hell out of me. It was in the forest and it was all lit up like it was like an egg shape and it was all lit up around and I was scared. I was a child and I was scared out
Yeah.
of my mind, to be honest. And that was like my first time
The
ever seeing
fact that you
something.
saw it would indicate, because knowing now what you do,
Yeah.
right, of the frequency relationships and how things come into our lives as a result, you were there.
Hmm.
Luba, when she was 8 years old, she saw this, orb, right,
Hmm.
come out of a storm, come right in front of her bedroom window, and she felt this unconditional loving energy from it that was just unbelievable, right? And so she
Oh,
had
that's
this moment of
beautiful.
communication at 8. Well, we're 10 years older, and part of me wonders if that was not being twin flames. Part of me wonders if that was not me.
Oh, your soul coming to her?
Hmm.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because if
Yeah.
she, that would have been about the same time I had my experience of the light, because I'm 10 years, sometimes 11, older than her. So I would have been 18, which is when I had my experience in college.
Hmm.
And so there's this, interconnectedness. Part of that was being in a sea of pinpoints of light and an indigo background and understanding those points of light to be points of consciousness. Whether in
Mm.
body or not, I wasn't sure because I wasn't at the time. I had the sense that they were somehow, just like you. You're one of those. I know it. You know it. Now that I brought it up,
I'm
right?
one of those
Points
that
of
what?
light, points of
Points of
consciousness that is at that frequency level, for lack of a better, as a volunteer to serve Earth,
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you for
right?
seeing
Because
that in me.
there's a collective. You can call it
I
the
volunteer.
right. You can call it the collective Messiah, right? But there's a bunch of us. Who knows what the numbers are? Those are all foretold. Still, how many of us are we aware of that are doing similar things? How many are you aware of through your work with Humanities Team and all the different folks that you run into of folks that are of at least a similar perspective, right? They may not have the in-depth experience or the knowledge or be able to talk about it, but they've got this gut feeling, right?
Hmm.
That they're here for something.
Hmm.
What do you find with that kind of query, with others?
I mean, okay, I'm just going to share something that's coming to me is that there's 144,000 of us.
That's what it says. Yeah, that's
That's
a
what it
circle
says?
around us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was just a download. Okay. And then
We'll put the check mark, right?
okay, yeah, checked it off as true, accurate. And then so what did you ask me?
In your experience, how do you find these folks beginning to recognize and acknowledge that within themselves? And I guess the bottom line is seek help, right? Because this is an arduous journey that, and going alone, right? It's tough enough by yourself. Even though it's an individual journey, we're designed to help each other.
Absolutely. I do believe that we are here to help each other, to connect on a deeper level, to be in community, and to thrive together. I think it's important to seek help if you're experiencing sensations or seeing things or being clairvoyant all of a sudden. It can be scary. Some of my clients, they come to me for that.
Hmm.
I don't know what's happening. And I can help ground them in this reality through various practices, through
Well, it's
healing.
still the same reality. They're just integrating a bigger
You're
picture
just
of it, right?
integrating it.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So, I mean, a lot of the spiritual teachers and leaders on humanities team, they're on a whole nother level. I
Mm.
would say, they're on a level like your level, and they've had so many experiences. It's like learning from their experience, whether it's near death, and you had your own lived experience that was like a near death, this spiritual connection, this
Hmm.
deep connection. And so I think it's like learning from each other and their experiences so we can really take these thoughts, these downloads, these creative inclinations and move forward with them so we can live in this power in this co-creative reality with everyone.
Sweet. Well put. Well put. And the desire, and you recognize this when we talked before, our core desire is simply to love and be loved. And
Well, I can forget that
we
sometimes.
all forget it, right? Even especially when it comes to ourselves. right? We forget what that is, and we lose ourselves in how others think we ought to be and what we think we should do and what survey says, right? And it's all out here for the most part, and we're trying to fit in out there from in here instead of finding ourselves first and then
Mm,
allowing that self to fit in naturally.
yes. I I remember when I first started speaking light language, I was scared because of my corporate background and my
Oh,
job with
sure.
humanities team. I thought
Yeah, you
people would
start
think
spouting
I'm
stuff sounds like gibberish to other people, and you think, right? It's like,
Yeah,
wait a minute.
exactly.
Oh, well,
And
hey,
I even
I'm totally hip to it. I did it one afternoon,
Yeah,
and
y
it's
toda
like,
te
whoa,
queixo, no te cae na tu. See,
yeah,
and I also so about this time that I was having like a little bit of trepidation, of fear, of like putting
sure,
out there on social media. I had a friend reflect this fear back to me. Of 25 years, we were friends. We had a deep friendship, relationship, everything.
right,
Basically sent me an email, not even like a phone call, like, who do you think you are? What is this language you're speaking? I don't even know how to relate to you. So it's just interesting because like what you were saying before, if we can be in that field of love, unconditional love and acceptance of ourselves, then the world can reflect that. So it kind of took me to that point where I was like, okay, this is who I am. Who do I think I am? I am this person that is now speaking light language
right,
and helping others recognize their gifts and heal. And I'm stepping into that. And so I think it gave me the fuel to keep going.
sure, sure, and it does, and you're going to get pushback from those that aren't able to make that leap. Perfect example for me. You reminded me of a kid. He's just a little bit younger than me when I moved from the commercial spares desk to the military spares. I had to train somebody. Well, the new guy came in tall, slender, looked almost skeletal. It was a runner. His son had a spleen disorder that the docs, 2 years old, the docs told him that that they just couldn't do anything more. Had a bunch of transfusions, take him home, let him die. And he told me about that. And it occurred to me, I had a friend that I grew up with from high school. His son had the same thing happen. They had the spleen removed and he lived. And I told him about that. 2 weeks later, he comes in all happy that, his kid's going to he's thanking God because the kid's going to live because they're going to take his spleen out. Never said one word to me. Then, then we were talking about the
Well, you weren't
Bible.
looking for recognition or
No, I
anything.
wasn't. I just wanted
No.
to, okay. And then we were talking about the Bible, and I was talking about Melchizedek and Jesus being after the order of Melchizedek. And it's written. Now, here's born again Christian Bible thumper, did not know that was in there, argued with me. And as soon as I laid the Bible, now this is not a good thing to do in an aerospace environment, right? But I found a Bible, found
In
the
a
verse,
workplace.
put it down in front of me, and I pointed to the sentence, and he springs up out of his chair and points over his shoulder, because I'm standing behind him, points over his shoulder, and he's probably 6 inches taller than me. And he says, "Get behind me, get behind me, get behind me." Right? This is the born again Christian phrase to use for Satan getting behind you. And he even called
I'm
me
sorry.
Satan one day, right? All whitewashed
I
on the
didn't know
outside and
that.
full of Satan on the inside. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing my best to just be here for you. I saved your kid's life with that notion, hopefully,
He thought you had Satan. You were possessed. Oh my
right?
God. I'm sorry I'm laughing.
No, it's hilarious. It really is. That how silly humans can be. And yet, you know where the word Satan came from? After I had my thing in college, I had to look it up because I was concerned. That Satan appears as
Yeah.
the
No,
angel of light,
it
right?
makes me
Well,
think of the church lady. Would
right,
it be
exactly.
Satan?
Saturday Night
Yeah.
Live, right? So I go to the library, I look up the word. The very first reference is Greek, thetan, Thetan,
Yeah.
meaning thinker.
Okay.
So
Okay,
think
so make
about
the
if you
connection
were
for us.
if you were wanting to create a fictitious enemy that you could fool everybody with, and you want to use something relevant to make it real, you'd say Satan with the lisp. Satan, right? So that enemy was created because we create everything,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing exists outside of us.
Hmm.
So to put your belief in something outside of you is a false belief system to begin with. So when we now understand all of this, and if you do your Bible research, and I'm not saying that the Bible doesn't have good stuff in it, because it does, absolutely. What it also has is the patriarchal programming of putting women down, coming from man's rib, right? Very first element, that women were made subservient. Not true, right? You actually ought to be on the pedestal. You're genetically superior to men,
I'll receive that. I'll
right?
receive that truth.
Okay. So, and if we understood that, we could travel to the stars sooner, because that's the feminine energy we're missing on this planet. That's the cooperative, the
Uh,
collaborative, the nurturing, the loving of each other. That's all the divine feminine side.
yeah, I believe it. Oh my gosh, I just had this realization, and I'm not sure if you're done sharing
That
yet or
we're
not.
way over time, right? No.
No, I mean, so no, I had this. So
Yeah.
I've always felt that the aliens would be more visible, more present when we had that energy of acceptance and love, because they want to live in community, to
Right.
be
They want us to be part of the universal
part of the
family. And until we
universal
can get along,
treaty.
we
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah, but we can't. So it's like once we can get into that frequency of what you're saying of the feminine and flow and being, then that can be a more harmonious relationship versus adversarial.
Right. And that's the difference between a collapsed culture steeped in competition and adversary, all the relationships, and co-creative, which is steeped in love and oneness.
Mm.
And it's
Wouldn't
an easy choice.
everyone want to make that choice? Everyone listening today.
One would think, right? And if you are scared or maybe not sure it's the right choice, reach out to one of us or someone and talk
Yeah.
about it. Let yourself process. The thing I found out about seeing a psychiatrist when I was a teenager was that it didn't matter what he asked. Good questions, first of all. What mattered was hearing yourself give the answer and the processing you could do at a tertiary level of that. Like, wait a minute, do I really believe that? Is that true? It came out of my mouth, and where am I with that? What would you, because as I mentioned, we are kind of closing on time. This has been an amazing conversation, Carissa, and I really appreciate. I mean, we've gone from, childhood woods experiences to corporations to aerospace to aliens and everywhere in between. I love it because we can.
Mm,
Thank you.
my pleasure.
Now, what could you offer as a parting gift? And I don't mean the giveaway, I mean just something that an insight or a daily practice that one in this kind of transition might be able to use that could help them.
Mm. Okay, so I'll just say what's coming to me. Unatake shanatake na. Never forget the truth of who you are and the divinity within. So, a practice would be taking a deep breath and visualizing your heart as one with the divine and all of humanity, even for a few seconds, and releasing that, and then feeling that gratitude that you are divine and stepping into your creative power. So, that's what I want to
Perfect.
share.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
It's all about centering, right?
Mm.
Carissa, again, I thank you so much for your insight, your wisdom, your spirit, your soul, everything that you do. It's been a joy to converse with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation and just learning from you and your background and experience and all the experts that you brought in to tie in, okay, this is what I'm thinking, and this is, collaborative, corroborative evidence that
Mhm.
this is real, this is the truth. And
Yeah,
so it was really a great flow, and I appreciate the connection and having me on behalf of Humanity's team. So thank you.
cool. Thank you again. And namaste and in la catch. And thanks for sticking with us for this episode of One World in a New World. And you already know who I am, Zen Benefiel. Again, please do like, subscribe, share, make a comment, talk to us. It's not weird, it's not crazy. Even if we say some things that may take you out of your normal realm, ask about it. There's no question that's silly or stupid. They're all valuable, and we'll answer them as best we can. And also, do stop by planetarycitizens.net. Make a donation if you can. It helps support us. And download the free Planetary Citizens Awakening the Heart of Humanity book there. And by the way, the Russian translation is now there too. So you'll be able to, if you speak Russian or you know some friends and you want to share, that would be absolutely wonderful. So for Charissa Sims and I, we thank you again for showing up and being present here now, and I'll see you next time.
Freedom is such a precious thing. Don't just talk about it.